what was spent on development expenditure, recurrent expenditure, I think I will ask the finance manager to explain. But what is mainly put on development expenditure, which is now retooling, are things which are a one-off. For example, if we are doing a census of business establishment, which will not be done again next year, and it requires huge investment, that's where the money is put. And also the equipment like the computer-assisted personal interviewing devices, the tablets, the other IT equipment, that's where we put the development. We can provide you the detailed expenditure per those items. But mainly it is these big programs that are not conducted every other year. They are not recurrent. Chair, I did not understand clearly the question of my former colleague, Honorable Kakoza. 30% reduction on data collection. We've already said that we tried to use non-conventional methods, telephone, to fill the gap, but also we would get fewer people to come and analyze the data. We are trying to see whether we can work remotely. So we used new innovations to make sure that we keep working. And that's how we decided, we managed to get to what we have. But we sacrificed many other things like informal cross-border trade, immigration data, and others. Because that one required our continuous presence to the border stations. I think I have endeavored to answer the question, Honorable Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edi and the team. Indeed, you have delivered to respond to the questions. And where you feel you have not satisfied us, and where we are not satisfied, we shall require you to give us further details in writing. And on this note, I would like to adjourn this meeting to tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Of priority when it comes to borrowing, and what informs the priorities of government when loans are being procured. Now, on the non-performing loans, you continue paying interest and also other obligations when the loans are not performing. What can be the solution here? I want to allow my colleagues to also expound on the issues I am raising, but I'm happy that you have defined the terms used. This has also been our concern. Thank you so much, Accountant General, for going an extra mile to define for us the terms you use under this vote. Then contingency fund. Contingency fund has always been an issue of Parliament. It is a matter of law. It is a rate. Honourable Minister, contingency fund should be a rate. You have been struggling to conform to the law. We want to, these are now how many years down the road? 2015, 2021. Are there any hope? Is there any hope that we will get to the requirements of the law in the near future as in regard to budgeting for contingency fund? Thank you so much. Colleagues, do we have, yes, Stella?
Thank you, Chair, and the Accountant General, and my old girl, Jennifer. We have been schoolmates. I'm very impressed by her work. Yes, she has colleges in many colleges and university. No, that is just, there is nothing to conflict on here. I'm just appreciating and impressed by what she has grown to be. I also want to add my voice on the chairman's comment on the non-performance of some loans. I know there are many, and one of the solutions to it, we would want to know the details of those non-performing loans. And maybe we have a time to discuss peculiar circumstances that are not allowing those loans to be absorbed, so that we can maybe put heads together and we get solutions arising from those circumstances, because I know they are varying. I remember one day I was in Kosase, where I'm a member, and the executive director, UNRA, cited out the mishap that is in the KCCA flyovers. The money was secured, the contracts made. At the end of the day, the contractor can't do work because there is no right of way for the land where to commit that money. And government was paying. She escaped a very bad statement. I think she later retracted it, but government was paying a lot of fines to that contract. I'm still wondering what could be the problem up to now, because I've not seen any work taking place, but what she told us was the contract was even signed. I remember one time I also asked on the floor of Parliament about the procurement of either boats or management of Lake Victoria. Management, they were going to buy boats, ferries, and maybe improve the water system, communication and what. And the money was also secured. So my wish would be, as the chairman recorded yesterday but one, that we don't only come here to authorize you get the budget, but we also have to put our heads together so that we can create solutions for these challenges together. So the baseline is, can we have those non-performing loans with their peculiar challenges, and maybe we go through them and have them. They can guide us to see what we can get as solution to the government.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Charles.
Thank you, Chairman. Chair, I'm sorry for having come a little late. When you were asking for the second person, I was just in the electoral commission here in the jam. There's no way I could jump out. I was the driver myself, and yeah, but nonetheless, I was able to get you moving on and grasp a few things.
You are welcome.
These are not new things to us. I think we have been going through them much of the time. Chairman, like you said, and you did intimate that Charles was going to ask about the debt, but instead you asked about it, so I don't need to repeat it. We are quite worried about the rising, debt stock and how we are utilizing it. I don't know whether it's rising and we're using it well. It's rising, it is holding, it's rising and it's being misused. We really don't know, and I think that's what colleagues have been asking. If it was rising and we're using it well, maybe we would have a chance of thinking that the returns from whatever we've invested on may be able to be plowed to pay off the debt. However, Chair, I just want to ask the Minister and his technical team, when in 12, they tell us that this financial performance and position as of 1920 is 62% is due to multilaterals, 31% is due to bilateral, 7% is due to commercial bank. As at that is fine. That is still, when we look at it, a higher side. But how has it been moving? How did we reach this in the last 2 years? How has this thing been moving in terms of our debt on multilaterals, our debt on bilaterals, our debt from commercial bank? How has it been moving? Is it this 62% is on a downward trend on bilaterals or on a rising trend? The 31% on bilateral, sorry, this is 62 on multilateral. Is it on a rising trend or on a lower trend? And where should we be borrowing more? Where should we be picking more than the other because of the costs? I wanted you to give me that. Other than that, Chair, I have a small concern. I don't know whether this is the time to raise it, but let's mention it. This Bank of Uganda capitalization, as at 31st December 2020, you had released 481, and I think they had also spent 481, that's 100%. In fact, you had released all the money for Bank of Uganda capitalization, and it had been applied. My concern is one, here, I will be advised anyway, that when we're approving the budget of this financial year, I don't know whether we gave you all the 481 billion. Oh, we cut it.
Yes, we did.
We did?
Yes.
Okay, fine. That was the problem, because I was getting like we cut and gave you something, so I was beginning to think, how did you raise it to? If we did, then that's fine. There is no other, you know. Then finally, when you tell us about the general budget performance, you give us the indication that the performance, as at the middle of the year, 31st December, is above 50, which is average. On average, that is how it should be, because the balance can be applied in the next half of the financial year. But can you tell us whether the budget has been performing normally or abnormally? Has it been performing according to the way we projected when we were budgeting? Or this casting is as a result of other abnormal situations that have come in, and that is how you've been releasing what? Funds. Because when you give us the percentage figures, we think the budget, the way we budgeted, is performing well, 57%. But has it been performing normally according to the normal expectations that we gave? That like Works has been getting its money, Health has been getting its money, which other section has been getting money? Or some abnormal circumstances have come in, and then this percentage that we are costing is just a percentage, and yet so many things are going away. Thank you, Chair.
Then before Francis, on page 14, you state that redemption is amounting to 1.045 trillion remained outstanding at the end of the financial year. Would like to know why. Okay. Francis?
Thank you, Chair. First, I apologize for having not been available. I was up country.
Welcome back.
And since I missed the last sessions of this, I may ask or ask for some clarifications that may be obvious or clear. Just three short things. One, if you borrow from different agencies, say 50 billion from X, 70 billion from Y, and these loans don't perform, you get but you don't utilize. But again, something comes up, then again you make a request to borrow, and yet this money is there. What could be your thinking about that? This money is there, it has not been utilized for the intended project, and you are saying you need more money, there's a certain project. How can we handle that to make sure that, is there a way of switching this on to or something like that? And then have you got challenges of diversion of these funds? Maybe somehow, somewhere, somebody can say, you first bring, then we shall see later. That is one. Two, you may see that you had 1,163 withdrawal applications that you effected of about 9 trillion. Do you see about maybe 55 of those that you have already effected being requested for payment? Do you have a mirror that watches that? And then lastly, slide 6 downwards, there was funding of 62 billion for contingency. Then you almost gave it all. So was it specifically for locust, flooding, and COVID? Thank you very much.
Honourable Minister, we can answer some, but I would like to welcome the Secretary General of the FDC, Honourable Mafabi. You're welcome.
And chairman of
And the chairman of Bugisu Cooperative Union.
Thank you very much, Mr.
You can
Chairman.
be answering some as you settles in.
Yeah,
Also, Migade Robert joined us.
Maybe to add a member of NRM, since we have used the Secretary General. Migade. There are a number of questions that have been asked, Mr. Chairman, and I will take on some, and then the Accountant General or his staff will answer some. The first one was on the contingency fund. We have been building this over time, and in this coming financial year, I think we are making a provision of over 225 billion against the required of how much? Because it's supposed to be 0. No, it is. Huh?
No,
The required is 0.5.
no, you can know.
Yeah. The required. So for next financial year, we are glad to inform you that we are going to put the to budget for the contingents as required by the Public Finance Management Act of the 0.5% of the total budget.
Of the total budget.
So the previous 3 years have been tough, and because of some reasons which all of us know. So the contingency fund requirement has now been fulfilled in the provisions that we are making for the next financial year.
Okay.
Then there is the issue of the structure of the debt. I think it was either Francis or Charis who asked this. According to the figures we have, we try as much as possible to go for the cheaper debt, meaning concessional loans. And according to the structure of our budget, of our portfolio, 85% of our debt is on concessional terms. 85% is on concessional terms. Then 15% is on commercial terms. And the reasons why we have this structure, would have loved every coin to be got on concessional terms, but because of some of the programs that cannot be funded by people who offer concessional terms, we certainly go for commercial terms. One of the reasons that we continue to see is that most lenders do not want to go for budget support. That's why we go for domestic borrowing to support the budget, because most of the concessional lenders want to fund a specific project with specific results, whereas the deficit in our budget in most cases is made through domestic borrowing. So that's the structure, and we are very cautious about this. We try as much as possible to continue looking. So apart from the need for budget support, which can't in most cases be funded by on concessional terms, there's also the issue of commercial element of these projects. Normally, the traditional lenders, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, are keen on social programs, education, health. They are not very keen about commercial enterprises. So that is like electricity. So that's some of the things that have been forcing us to go for commercial loans, but majorly the issue of budget support vis-a-vis project financing. The second is about the rising nature of our debt portfolio. We have always told you, honorable colleagues, that we as the East African community, because we know the dangers of debt, and especially if it's not managed well, we said we needed to limit ourselves as nations, and we set a threshold of 50%. So as we speak, including the standard gauge railway, we are approaching 50%, but we are not yet there, because we are now at 49.6%, including all the projects in the pipeline. And when you compare this with the other countries like Kenya, I think it has gone now beyond 60%. We are actually the only country, almost the only country, progressive economies that have are still below 50% on the continent. Not only on the continent, even in the world. As you know, America is now Japan is in 200%, America is over 100. So as the chairperson said, the problem is not debt. The problem is utilization of these debts, because it is a catch-20. There's no country, even at the household level, it's very difficult to balance your budget from your own resources. There's no country, apart I think from Switzerland or Norway, that is balancing their own budget using their own resources. Even when you want to balance your own resources, you also face, using your own resources, you also face another challenge of increasing the tax among the citizens. Because if you are to get money to finance all what you need, you must get money from taxes. So we also know, Mr. Chairman and colleagues, that with time, we are going to see this debt coming down in the next 5 years, because we have invested heavily in the infrastructure. Infrastructure is taking a lot of our debt, and because infrastructure is very, very, very important. Roads are important, electricity is important, but we are not going to be investing in roads forever. So we think that, yes, it's important we invest in roads now and other infrastructure, but once a dam is built, you can't continue building a dam for the next 20 years. So these capital investments we are making, we hope that after 5 years, you will see now a debt portfolio coming down. This has also been coupled by the demand of the citizens of Uganda for better services. People want better services everywhere you go. They want good roads. They want good hospitals. They want good, and as people who have been given this mandate, we can't let our people down. So we try, Mr. Chairman, to continue balancing the equation of debt vis-a-vis domestic revenue, and we know the dangers. That's why we're very, very, very keen about balancing this. Now, on the issue of the performance of loans, which is very critical, when you get this money, this money must be utilized to benefit the people of Uganda. And when it's invested well, actually when it's invested well and the economy grows, then the burden reduces. Because remember, debt to GDP. So when GDP increases, the debt to GDP ratio goes down. So it is critical that when we are borrowing, we borrow to put this money in areas that will grow the economy, because eventually the burden will come down, or even the speed at which we implement these projects. So we have been having a lot of disappointments, and we are working on them. One of the problems that we have been facing was the procurement was one of the key issues. And Mr. Chairman, we brought here a law which I think, I don't know what has been signed. It was returned, which I think the Parliament is considering, and the committee is working on it, to make sure that we streamline and get out these impediments in the procurement processes. Administrative reviews have been a problem. For example, Karuma, a project that was going to turn around, we remember the cost of doing business. If you want manufacturing, want factories in the economy, you must have cheap electricity. To have this, you must build a dam. So you find that you have a project for the whole 5-year program of the National Development Plan, but this project to start takes 2.5 years. And why is it taking long in the procurement process? Because somebody from Kachumbali, Charles' place, who probably knows a lot of information about dams, petitions after a procurement has been done that he needs a review of this process. So you take another, Karuma took 2.5 years to procure. So those are some of the problems that we are facing. The other problem which we are facing, which we have worked on, was the counterpart funding. Counterpart funding was a big problem, but I can confirm now that over the last 3 years, we are now almost at 60–80% there, between 60 and 80%, having enough resources to do counterpart funding. There is also the issue of the citizens refusing to cooperate with government in this way. You have a road like we had with Entebbe Express. You have got the loan. You have money to compensate people on the way. But the chief government Varua makes a value for your compensation, but people say, I cannot take it. I need a higher figure. Government, we cannot just use the markets. We must have a system to use. Then you go and spend 6 months in court. As you spend 6 months in court, the contractor is also now putting charges on you. So Kampala Entebbe Express, because of one section, it took almost 6 months on one particular portion of the road that is very, very, very important. So those are some of the things that we are seeing. And when we, members also have to bear with us, when we came to amend the law, the Land Act, you remember what happened. You advised the government that that's a very dangerous path. So, no, so we become a bit stuck. We want to stimulate this that can help the performance of the loan, but then Parliament says, no, go slow on this. So we are looking at different ways on how we can resolve this. You find the people want electricity. People want electricity in the villages. You get a program to do electricity, but they say for you to pass the poles, you must compensate. So it becomes a very big issue to balance. But I think together we can handle some of these things. So the other point, which as I close, so the main point here is really the debt is rising, but we are still within the threshold, and we think that in 5–10 years, the debt levels will start going down because most of the resources we are borrowing are going into the infrastructure, which is capital investment that does not require investment every single year. We are working on management now, and we have said if you have a project and the project is not performing, you are an accounting officer, and the reasons why the project is not performing is you should be fired. You should be fired because you are wasting people of Uganda's money. The other one was the issue of the Bank of Uganda capitalization. I think that's an issue we have worked on, and we promised Parliament. The minister will be coming, we shall be coming to the House to make a statement. We had that issue where for this financial year, we used the provisions that for the previous year for budget framework paper, but then before we complete the discussion of the budget framework paper, the information came and Bank of Uganda was in the opinion that they never needed further capitalization because they have made some profits. And that created some controversy in the public. We are coming to explain exactly what happened and then clear it. But nevertheless, at whatever level of this process, so that's the beauty of democracy. At whatever something is discovered, then it's corrected, it's good for the country. Even if it was an error, if it is discovered at the committee and it's corrected, it's good. But to know that we have not done anything in bad faith, because that's why these systems happen. That's why this system, Nanda, that's why these systems happen. To cross-check
Yes,
each
it
other.
was corrected.
Yes, to cross-check each other, yes.
And
So,
I don't think you need to make a statement.
Eh?
again. It was corrected.
It was corrected.
Yes.
But
Not
there is
uncorrected.
need, there is a lot of
maybe for
there is a,
public
there is a bad air. There is a lot of pollution in the air beyond Parliament. Parliament understands, but in the air, the air was polluted a lot. Then the issue is budget performance, which I want the Accountant General to look at.
Tomorrow, let me allow Honorable Mafari.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for your patience. Honorable David Bat, our Minister of Finance, you're most welcome, and the Accountant General. Just a small, just on peg 6, the new loans which were contracted. I just wanted to find out what is the rate of the SDR to $1 and the euro.
The rate of what?
The SDR to $1. Because there's SDR, there's euro. The purpose I'm asking this is for purposes to know how much all this money is in one currency. Because, Mr. Chairman, why I'm asking this, if you look at this table, the minister should have really drawn us a table in such a way that one, opening balance is this. Now we get one currency where we convert all the money so that we say in dollars, the euro money is this. Then this new year we have contracted this, of this we have paid this, and the balance is this. And the reason I'm raising this is where I'm going, Mr. Chairman, that the Minister and the Accountant General will help us to give us the rate of SDR to $1 and the euro. But having used my own small mathematics, in my own thinking, I am assuming only if I do my computation here, I get this to come to about 8 trillion, this table. Now, if this is 8 trillion, and I add on peg 13, peg 13, I'm sure a bond is a debt. I want to agree with you, first agree with that. If it's a debt, and you say you added 8.49, and you are redeeming 5, that means an additional debt of 2.57. So 8 trillion plus 2.5, that gives 10.5 trillion. Then I have a domestic debt also a debt? Okay, if it is, the next one is 2.47. If I add on that, I am around what? So 10.25 plus that one, I'm around 12.4, 12.57 something. Now, if I paid, again, if I go back to peg 7, if I paid, you have seen it, you said that the external debt we paid, and the interest is, because I'm looking at the principal, I'm not going to interest. It was 572.5. So if I only remove the local debt and paid this, I am already over 10 billion, an addition of external what? Debt. Because I've taken a bond, I've added on it, before we do the numbers of others. But you are saying that your debt increased by 8 trillion on peg 11. Yes, external debt. To me, from what I've done, my external debt is over 10 trillion. That's why if I'm wrong or I'm right, the best way to help us to understand is to do that table Mr. Chairman, that table of the principal, add on what you have contracted, rest the redemption, and get the balance. This will help us to quickly understand. In fact, you don't need these really big paragraphs. That table will explain everything, and you'll have no problem. I don't know, Mr. Honorable, but you see it. Having said that, the last one which I want to put across is that given this position, if you look at page 13 only, that the domestic debt has increased by 2.47 trillion. What does it mean? It means the locals, I am assuming I'm among the locals, and David Bahati is part of
you
it.
are higher there, I don't know.
It doesn't matter, but I'm among. It means the local debt, it means the money which should be used by the local has been swapped by government, and the locals have no money. And if you read newspapers on a daily basis, you will see adverts of properties. And I don't see any Indian property being advertised. You will see Ismail Sebunya, Bahati David, Semakula something. Those are the names. Isn't this stock the one which is making people poorer? This stock which is increasing every day. And if it is it, how will the government be happy to see locals going in poverty and saying for them that really the economy is growing, yet the economy is being growing maybe by government growing, or the wananchi are in danger. And this is what I wanted to understand, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
I can, okay.
In other words, he's concerned about the format of presentation.
Okay. Mr.
Balance brought forward, then the total contracted in the period, less the total repaid, you get the amount outstanding. And also his concern is about, you are competing with me in the commercial bank.
And when they are lending for you,
Yes.
you, Mr. Chairman, they will say you're higher risk.
Yes.
So, and while your interest even is higher,
Yes.
how can somebody who is in danger, even the interest be higher? And tomorrow your
So-
property is in the market because of
But
David
my-
Bahati being the
Mr.
Minister
Chair,
of Finance.
On 2 points, we shall improve on the format so that it's clearer and make it as simple as possible that somebody can follow.
Like me who is from the village, you can understand.
Yes. The second point, and all of us should really appreciate what has happened to our economy, is that despite the COVID challenge, Uganda remains the only country on the continent, if there are not like 3, that is growing in the positive, because our economy is growing at 2.6%, while other economies, including USA, are growing in the negative. So our economy has remained resilient, and the reasons have been very clear of the areas that actually have been our focus. So I think this is something we need also to celebrate, because
Chairman,
What is the rate of
Chairman,
growth now?
Chairman,
2.6%.
Chairman, just a small one.
2.6%. Yes,
Chairman, I don't want
Honorable
to disagree with the minister. It's unfortunate. It depends on the figures you are applying. If you applied all the figures, including what is happening to the negative point, you would be at negative. So let me give an example. 10 out of 12, okay, say 9 out of 12, out of 10 is 90%. But what is this consists of 9? You are saying it's growing. What are those factors you are using, those numbers you are using to determine your economic growth, which is growing, yet the population is poor? Eh? I want you to help us. Is the economy growing in government side, while the population is side? I need to understand, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
You come
Chair.
from Rwanda.
Honorable Kakoza, you can occupy that.
Chair,
It's free.
the chairman of Bugisu Cooperative knows that their standards of assessing the economy growth. And the issue is talking about is the quality of this growth. But the standard of measuring it are the same across the world. Now, and what we are trying to work on now is to improve on the quality of this growth. That's why you've seen that the National Resistance Movement government is now focusing on uplifting the 68.9% of the households who live in subsistence economy, because we believe that if this is done, then we are giving actually the purchasing power. We are lifting the purchasing power of Ugandans, and we can easily turn around this economy even better. But in terms of growth of the economy, we are using the same standards, and it is growing at 2.6%. The last point is what the Honorable Nandala Mafawe has raised, the issue of government going to the market to borrow and the risk of crowding over the private sector. We are aware of this. We are aware of the risk. But at the same time, what we are trying to do is to make sure that we minimize the risk as much as possible. But also the figures have indicated, I don't know whether Accountant General has come with these figures or Jennifer, that actually the liquidity in the banks have been increasing. Despite the fact that the government is borrowing, there is a lot of liquidity in the commercial institutions. So the question is not whether we are actually mopping out this liquidity through our own borrowing and therefore crowding the private sector. There are also other factors that we are working on, but the latest information that we got from Bank of Uganda is that this borrowing is, yes, it is affecting the private sector, but not as big as actually would have expected in the circumstances. Therefore, we are trying as much as possible to minimize the risk. But as I said,
what about in terms of interest rates? Have they been going down? The interest rates in the market.
You have some figures on the interest rates? Yes, the figures on the interest rate.
Because the liquidity can be there, simply because people are not willing to take it out because of the cost in terms of interest.
I can ask one of the staff to make a comment on this matter.
Honorable Kakoza, through the chairman,
Okay.
you can make your point.
Yeah, I want to supplement you. That saying.
But the
of
chairman,
that the
because
liquidity-
doesn't know where we are. He might take us by end.
No, I can grasp.
No,
from
no,
your-
no,
supplementary.
no. You can't grasp if you cannot grasp your
As
own
you
name.
said, Ozini can supplement. Just one
One
point
comment.
Yes, just one comment.
I think practically what is on the ground, what the minister is saying that the liquidity is there. Yes, why should I borrow when the businesses are not taking off? That's why bank still has that money there. Even if I borrow, I have nowhere to invest it from. We are operating from out of the normal. So that does not make to say that we are trying to make things happen when the situation is not the best. Because even if you borrow, where do you want to invest it from? Is the environment okay? So there must be another provision. When I was looking at the NDP3, where the core investments aligning with the budget performance of this year, where government could spur the economy, it's not aligned with the NDP3 in the economy, the core projects that can spur the economy. They are not supported. That's where the problem is. I think the minister should take interest, thinking that the liquidity is there, the banks have, but the businesses are not there. Because you can't borrow and you have nowhere to invest the money.
Okay, let's give chance to the Honorable Minister to respond.
So, Chair, I think I have tried to answer that it is true that our borrowing affects the private sector, but what government in the circumstance, what we are trying to do is to minimize that risk, because we have no other way of financing this deficit to offer services to the people of Uganda. But I wanted one of the officers to shed light on the interest rate, and issues of liquidity, and also how the private sector has been reacting to our domestic borrowing. If you can. Jennifer, okay.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Just yesterday, we had a T-bill auction where we auctioned.
I think it's okay.
May I? Okay, where we auctioned 91 day, 182 day, and 364 day bills, and the results indicate that the bid to cover ratio was above 2. Actually, it was 2.4%, indicating that, for example, we set out to achieve 15 billion on the 91, and we got bids doubling that amount. When I go to the yields, the 91 actually edged downwards to 8 from 8.246. The 182-day rate came from 11 to 10.9, and the 364-day reduced from 13.226 to 12.502%. That is on the bill side. On the bond side,
Mr. Chairman, are we
Yes.
here on the bill on treasure? But I thought we were talking about banks.
I
Min
thought
and
this was
Aragon.
a straightforward question.
For you, this one you can come with your figures.
I think, Chair, let's see, go back, we shall send you the
Okay.
rates. Yeah.
All right, that's much better. You can pick it up from where the minister stopped in giving responses.
The minister.
Migade, did you raise your matter? You raise it as, okay, you can raise it. Let Migade raise it.
Unfortunately, I wanted to raise it when the minister was around, but still, the Accountant General maybe can help. One of the biggest lenders of government is the EU. And actually, in the recent past, the DGF has been giving Uganda over $108 million. And of recent, there is a snag between government and DGF. Do we expect any negative impact as far as funding of the different agencies or as government is concerned as a result of this? Because some time back when we had similar, that and the World Bank started writing letters here and there, started interacting with the Committee of National Economy as to why they are not giving, resources. Then government, in one or the other, tried to move away to other lenders. So do we expect any negative impact as far as funding of our budget is concerned?
Okay.
Chair, the Honorable Member, EU is one of the biggest. It's not a lender, but provider of grants. That's the grants. So we don't think that there will be an effect because of what's going on. This is an issue that will be resolved very soon. So we don't think that there will be an effect on that. But, Honorable, let me go to what the Minister had not answered, which was specific. One was on the issue of budget performance, where the Honorable Member asked that for us, as Vote 130, are we operating normally? I think the answer is yes. As you know, Vote 130 is not a service vote. So the expenditures of Vote 130 under all circumstances remain. So we are operating in a normal, and that's why we are at 57%, which is on half year.
So in other words, you cannot be affected by any budget cut?
No, we don't.
Then why are you not redeeming all the obligations?
That one I was coming to it. So,
okay.
Yes, it is one of the questions that was there. That why do we then have outstanding at the end of the financial year? Now that is twofold. The first and the easy one is that these redemptions happen sometimes in the last week of June. So if this happens in the last week of June, definitely Bank of Uganda has not billed us or sent us the invoice for us to be able to reimburse. So that is the timing difference that happens there. And then we have to, that one we usually have to reimburse it in the month of July as soon as we start operating the next financial year. In circumstances which are rare, could be a cash flow, issue. And therefore at times you have to do a trade-off between what is critical. For example, if there are statutory salaries that are due, and you have the two pending invoices, statutory salary, redemption, and others. And of course, you have been hearing people crying that at the end of financial year, most of their invoices are not paid. That is the decision we have to take. Because of the cash flow position, you have to take a decision that what do you pay? What's the trade-off? So, but that happens in very rare cases. I think it has happened once or twice. Once so far, so I guess it will not happen again. The other issue was where the member asked that I think I see has gone out, that why don't we utilize the funds of the non-performing loans on the performing one? That was a very good question, and that is something that we have also been discussing. And we think, although the development partners are not willing to accept at the moment, but we think that as a government is something that we should look at, especially if they relate to one creditor, let's say World Bank. If project A is performing and project B is non-performing, and yet I've borrowed the money for all those two projects, and I'm short on project A, we should be able to see how we can utilize those funds for the performing project. But that is something that is still under negotiation, and we don't know when it will be concluded. The contingents, he said the 67, is it the 62 billion? We have the schedule of what we spent on. The locusts, we spent 24 billion.
And then got supplementary.
Did we get supplementary? No, we didn't get a supplementary.
Yes, there is something we approved for locusts.
Yeah, no, I'm saying what was spent out of the contingencies.
You first utilized the contingency window,
and then the supplementary were different. But otherwise, from the contingencies fund,
I'm sure if you cross-check, all this happened in the same period.
Yes, Chair, but I think the members' question...
One request came to Parliament for supplementary, and another request came to you.
For the contingents.
For the contingents.
Okay, so that is something. So, but for us, from the contingents, we paid 24 billion for the locusts. We paid 12 billion for emergency relief under Office of the Prime Minister. We sent 233 million for the COVID in China. And we gave the 25 billion to Ministry of Health for COVID also. So that exhausted the 62 billion. But I also want to make some comment and appeal, Chair, that the contingency fund, you remember when we were working on the law, we had proposed that we should set up this fund exclusive or not included, what can I explain to make it much more easier, different from the consolidated fund. But now what happens is that the money we send to the contingencies fund, we have to appropriate it through a consolidated fund. And if there is any balance, then we return it to the consolidated fund and we begin afresh. But I think in the future, if we could have a contingencies fund that is independent of the consolidated fund, and money is raised specifically for the contingencies fund. Now, for example, this coming budget, we are budgeting for 225 billion for the contingencies fund. But should we, and the circumstances come and we don't spend all that money, that means that we have to return it to the consolidated fund. But I thought the way we had proposed in the earlier amendment, we wanted that this fund is, once there is a balance, it remains on the contingencies fund, and then we can always top up going forward. I think that would be much more easier. But now that I leave to you, the honorables. What was the other that you hadn't answered? There? There? I think. Yeah, and then of course we thank the Honorable Mafabi for the presentation. Says that we shall do to make it much more easier. But I think we add it in the explanations. But that is something that we can make the table so that we make it much more easier for people to understand.
You are aware we are senior six leavers. So these senior six leavers,
No,
to understand, comprehend things.
We
is not
apologize and we learn every day. So
No, for you have already learned. We have not.
for us we learn every day. So that is very good. We shall do next time. Next, yes. The other, I think the Honorable Minister answered where he said that where should we be borrowing more? I think he explained.
Here,
I think
the minister explained
that one, yes.
Maybe where are we in regard to minimizing domestic arrears? Is there any effort you are making to, as you have made for the contingency fund,
On
are you
domestic
making
arrears.
any effort to minimize?
Yes, we have drawn up a domestic arrears strategy, and we have also made provisions. But honorable members, you know, there's one thing to project and the actual. And we actually, you have seen this financial year, which has been very difficult. And I know when you interact with most of the ministries, they will just start saying, no, the Minister of Finance did not provide the money as he appropriated. So that is the reality, is that we have a domestic career strategy where we are saying we are going to reduce this domestic careers at this rate by putting this kind of amounts within the appropriation. But the reality then strikes that when it comes to the execution, we are not able to raise that cash to be able to meet that commitment. But otherwise, everything being normal, we should be able to reduce those domestic areas.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
we have also some tea.
Yes, Francis.
It is
You
for
have
you.
some tea?
It is for you.
Okay.
We are merely just.
Are you? Look at this. Okay, we want to thank you so much, Accountant General, Jennifer and the team for the presentation. And we want to thank you for your cooperation always. You have always provided the information as and when the committee requires. Unless you have something to say, do you have any? No, since there is, if you have nothing
Chair.
else to add.
And only to thank you once again that we have also been finding good time interacting with this committee. And we hope that this continues. And yes.
Okay, thank you so much. You can take leave of the room. And Accountant General is a very cooperative man. And I'm sure you are friends. Now that he has made a commitment before you and the committee, I'm sure he will comply. He will bring the documents. Okay. Okay, you can take leave. And is NPA coming? 12:30. We have less than 15 minutes. So, friends.